Everybody, the last block of talks for the day has been, seven to nine blocks of talks. Yesterday was a long day, today was a little shorter. But it's been really fun. I'm glad everybody came, and if there are any presenters in the audience, thank you for that. I enjoyed it as well. I just want to give one warning here. I'm going to use at least one dirty word today. That's not the one you're expecting, so have fun guessing about that one. You can guess it on Twitter. I'll buy you a burger. All right, so today we're going to talk about a soft science in video games, which has not really been something we've been talking about. It's called personal lore through community is the way I like to look at it. And when I play games, social is exceptionally important. And social has this idea to it now that it's on your phone, it's on your Twitter, it's on your Facebook. And I'm here to tell you it's more than that, and you need to give it more weight when you design your games. It's incredibly valuable, and we're going to cover why. So, to introduce myself, I brought some fun pictures. My name is Anthony Sliced Bread Barnes. It's actually my middle name. It's not. But it's what I go by when I play games. My gamer handle has been for well over a decade, and it's in the league too. So, on the left, it's what I am in real life, and on the right, the version of me in video games. And both are really, really important to me. And as a gamer, over the years from ancient PC playing, where handles were extremely important to, as more games have adopted them through Xbox Live and other online services, I believe that they need to be cherished more and encouraged, and a lot of people are doing that, and you should be too. So let's unfold this a little bit. My lore. I got my education at the Illinois Institute of Art in Chicago a couple years back, or a year back, I suppose. I was working at Sleepy Giant in Chicago for a little while. I was working on the Pokemon trading card game online. I was a customer service manager. I was a community manager. You know that stack of hats in Team Fortress 2? They had one of those on each ear and then one on top. So we did a lot of things. And then afterwards I did some environment art at NetherRealm for the recently released game Injustice. And I'm currently doing quality assurance at Raven Software over in Madison. That's Anthony. And this is Anthony being professional at a pie eating contest. So this is to show that, yes, we don't really think about expressing it explicitly, but in your real life you have these things. You have this lore that you develop over the course of time. That I got last place at a pie eating contest in Raven because they were half frozen and I really hate cherry. And the guy who got first place loves cherry. So, and it's a story to tell. And maybe it'll come up tomorrow, maybe it'll never come up again, maybe somebody else will remember it, and you'll forget it. But it's part of the lore that's associated with you. And it's important in games. So let's look at my gamer lore. Sliced Bread's lore started in the basement of a neighborhood friend's house when I was about 5 or 6 in Kentucky, when I had my first interaction with console games. And the guy was older. I believe he's about 10 years older than me. So I'm 6, and he's in his teens. And he's playing a game, and it's called Final Fantasy III, and I thought it was really, really cool. I didn't have any idea what the hell was going on, but I really wanted to play it, and that was awesome. So I said, hey, can I try it? He said, no, you're not smart enough. So, okay, I can't play games yet. I'll find something else. And eventually, my folks got me Super Nintendo, my brother, and we shared it, and eventually I came across what is my favorite game, Secret of Mana. And that kept me going for quite a long time. And as time went on, I got older, I got more money, I enjoyed myself more. And eventually I decided that instead of posing with my girlfriend for senior pictures, I'd pose with my computer and never date again. So, but when I was about 15, I had made money through mowing lawns, and we had allowances. But getting allowances to the level of affording a computer piece by piece and having never built one yourself is tough and not an easy sell when your parents have control over your bank account. But I managed to convince them to give me every bit of money I owned, and I built my first computer, and that led to the credit known as the Envelope 2. And I spent a lot of time on that. And if you see the green controller there, that fabulously fashionable green controller was my favorite Halo controller, and that's where I spent a lot of my time as well. And this is where things really took off for me as a gamer. I spent a lot of time in people's basements, again, this time playing the game. That was pretty nice. playing Halo and meeting people, and we worked together toward common goals, and we enjoyed the same game, and all of a sudden, we were a group that shared similar interests, and we could move forward together, and this community we started to build around this game is not unlike communities you have with sports, or with schools, or anything, really. I mean, you can think of a million different things, classes as well. And so it seemed inherent. You didn't really talk about it explicitly. Nobody really did, but it was a thing. You talk about LAN parties, but you'd say, oh yeah, that's sociological community development. Nobody says that. But it stuck with me, and I kind of miss that. And one of the reasons I'm up here today is that over time, technology has developed, and our interests have developed, and where we live has developed, and we're not all really around each other anymore. I haven't been to a 20-person basement LAN party playing Halo in a long time. But I still really would enjoy to do it. And now we have Xbox Live, we have PlayStation Network, we have Voice over IP with Ventrilo, TeamSpeak, Mumble, all this great stuff. Skype is the most valuable program ever. And we're able to stick together like that. But the physicality has been lost. And I'm not saying it's the most valuable part of it, because I understand life happens. You get out of school, social circles shrink, and you make up for it in the ways that you can. But I don't think that we necessarily need to leave it all behind. And I think that now we've gone from arcades way back, where there is that physicality. You are together, and it's the only place you're playing games, man, because you're not porting that case on your own. Before consoles, and then we got into the consoles, and we got online, and now we're here. And I think that with the development of the ability to communicate across geography, is where it's at. It's time for hybridization of everything. And as developers, it's important to remember this, I believe. Because sports, the Super Bowl is not the biggest event in American television things all year without good reason. Because enough people form a community around it and they want to see it. So if we do it with games, we can make that happen too. And it propagates itself over time, make it more popular, a bigger thing. Here's that dirty word. Video games are a business, and if you don't keep that in your mind at all times, you will not succeed, whether you're an indie or you're AAA. You may not sell a bunch, and that's fine, but you still have to sell. You still have to be able to support your addiction, habit, hobby, whatever it is, but you need to make sure that it supports itself, and that's how sports did it, and that's how games do it, and let's try to expand on that with more community. So why is social important? Players learn about themselves and others. When you're in a group, you get to see what you can contribute to the whole. What are your values? If I'm laying on my couch playing Halo, I'm like, I can really shoot really well, I can catch the flags really well, and nobody's got time to catch me on a Warhawk. You get into a group, and all of a sudden, you're really good at the flag, and everything else, you're pretty eclipsed. And you wouldn't know that on your own. And this is a value that pushes you forward as a player to become more skilled, more self-aware, because you're around other people that can show you these things. And so that is why social is important. It gets these social interactions are organic. And that's not always by design, but it can be by design. So the big thing is trying to enable your players to be able to be social, so they should they so choose. And that's important, because nobody wants anything forced on them. I'm up here doing this speech because I really want to, but if you force somebody up here, they might not enjoy it as much, or they might back out. And the similar thing is for social in games. So we need to really, really remember that. Because I had a friend one time, she played WoW solo. I don't know if you know much about World of Warcraft, but 11 million people were playing it at one time, and she never grouped with anyone. So if you can think about playing a game with a lot of other people, and you don't play with any of them, is that really good, or is that really bad, or is it different? Is it okay? My opinion it is, because it was possible. Whether that was inherently planned, who knows? But what's interesting is as time went on, not necessarily the case of my friend's situation, Blizzard stopped implementing 3- and 5-man group quests. They required you cannot complete this quest without a bunch of other people. Well, if you're kind of shy, or you don't have voice communication, or you're not very good at communicating, making new friends to do those group activities could be tough. And it's a barrier to entry for people that maybe escape the games to have an easier time socializing. So you really don't want to block them out. You need to be really conscious of things like that. And even if you're not proactive about it, be reactive. See things. See one player just saying, this isn't really working. Like, a lot of players didn't want group quests. so Blizzard paid attention, and they improved on it. You don't have to be right the first time. You just have to react accordingly. As I said, those personal strengths are probably the most important part, is learning about yourself. You know where you are and find that. Know at the end of the day what your value is. It's an ego thing. Well, ego is kind of a dirty word. How about just your ability to wake up in the morning and have self-worth? Or maybe waking up in the morning is logging into the game. When you log in, you know you have something to contribute. You might not always have something to contribute. That's the interesting and great part about it. You can get in and find out you're terrible. When I first applied for a World of Warcraft grading guild, quick background on that one, I've been ranked the top 43rd person in the world for a couple of times on certain encounters, and I've been in the world top 200 guild for the better part of 4 years. I don't play anymore because post-college life is fun, but I put a lot of time into it, and when I first started, I was benched for 3 weeks straight. 5 nights a week, 4 hours a night. Never got any time. And that was interesting, because I had nothing of a value high enough to contribute to justify a spot in the rig. And that taught me something. I didn't have to have something good. I just had to find out what I can do. And that was extremely important to me. The extremely important thing for you as developers is remember, it's supplementary to any business model. Don't force it to hurt you unless you do it poorly. So use usability testing. Everybody knows what usability testing is? Put people on it, throw people at it, see if they like it. If they get in there and they don't know how to hit the talk button, then your social feature probably isn't going to do so well. Blizzard had an issue at one point where they tried to ship voice chat in the World of Warcraft client, and it was god-awful. You had TeamSpeak alternatives, you had Ventrilo alternatives, and Skype was an up-and-comer with Mumble shortly after. No one used it, which is a problem if you put money into a feature. But what a bigger problem is this business model I'm talking about. The more you spend time around a product, the more likely you are to enjoy the product and want to spend more money on it. So if they're using your voice chat, they're not going to Ventrilo and giving them money. They're not going to TeamSpeak and giving them money. They're more likely to give you their money. And there's a lot of debate about social games that say, well, it's exploitative. And you just go for their wallets and whales and small fish and all these buzzwords, but realistically, that's the way it is. You have to make money. Choose how you make that money, but know that keeping players around is exceptionally important, and you have to figure out how to do that best. So what is social truly? It's an arm that apparently spans 3 people. You're not going to see that, by the way. That's been 2 years of not looking at that picture. But the point is that it's the freedom to enjoy experiences together. This comes back to don't force it. Make it organic. And you don't need to over-moderate either. Let people figure out on their own what works. Make it easy and let them grow at their own pace. Don't force it down the throat. I'm going to repeat it a lot. But I'm a very social person, but I ran my WoW guild for a long time with a friend who has Asperger's, and it was very tough for him. And some things got forced on him, and then he would just bail. And I was sympathetic because I could see how that would be a problem. So be very wary of that. But more on social. Social is a bit like HR. Not another dirty word, but probably not one you were expecting. When I ran recruitment, I ran leadership, and I was a participant in my guild, I suppose. In our activities, I had to manage people. That's 3 hours a night, 5 days a week, 25 people in the event, up to 10 on the bench, 30 minutes wrap-up time before, 30 minutes prep time, or prep time after, 30 minutes prep time before, if I'm lucky. So I may be at this 5 hours a night, trying to manage 35 people. That's tough. It's very rewarding, I won't lie. It was the reason that I stuck with WoW for so long, but knowing that that is how you approach people can help you figure out how to make your social features ring well with your players. And it's an interesting, very dictionary-like definition, but it's developer-enabled user return. We'll unpack that, and we have kind of been, you need to make it possible for them to enjoy themselves and figure out their own ways to enjoy it. And And that means being a little bit of soft science, like I mentioned before. If they're not doing it your way, and 90% of people aren't doing it your way, you're the one doing it wrong. And have the humility to recognize that. You don't want to give players the power to command however the game's made, of course, but you need to be able to understand when social trends are not what you predicted, identify what caused these. It will make you better as a developer. And again, the not forced, but readily available. And it's more than Twitter and Facebook. Twitter and Facebook's good, but tell me how you plan on improving on the Facebook model. They have text, pictures, documents, groups. You can use it anywhere on the web. Probably not improving it. But it's also kind of hard to embed because there's a lot of information, so that might not work so well. Twitter, on the other hand, is 140 characters that can translate into anything. You can put that into games. The issue with these is being your main social contacts without modifying them. The people have to go out of their way to find you, basically. Raise your hand if you stare at your Twitter feed waiting for something to show up. Yeah, so you're about 5% of the entire group. There's nothing wrong with that, but most people don't do it. By the time you have 100 people you're following, if they're active posters, it's a torrent of information. So maybe you start choosing a few to go to your phone, but if they don't choose you, you're not reaching them, and that's your fault. You're not providing interesting enough or intelligent enough or valuable enough content, and then that avenue is worthless. Why have it if they're not reading it? This kind of sounds like you're forcing it, but that's not going to be the case when I suggest looking at Modern Warfare 3. I believe they also did it in Black Ops when Infinity Ward had a news ticker on the menu screen that had their tweets going by, saying, come in and check out our contest, or here's a code for this, that, or the other, or here's our newest patch update. All this relevant information can be given to your players, and you can put it on the bottom of the screen. You're not forcing it down their throats, but you're making it readily available to them. Should they choose to follow up on it? Awesome. If they don't, that's fine. But it's better than them never reading it at all. So be careful how you use your Twitter and don't waste it. And as the slide says here, given the opportunity, most players would love to interact beyond the limitations of the game world. And this picture of BlizzCon should be a good example. BlizzCon tickets going on sale this Wednesday. Looking forward to that. The point is, they sell 20 minutes every year. And there are almost 20,000 people that attend. Think about that for a minute. 1,000 tickets sold every minute, immediately. A lot of people that really want to go and do something. You could make the argument that say, oh, well, 20,000 out of 11 million is not much. Well, that's true. But that's still 20,000 people at least that want to go. That's plenty enough to do something for them, especially at the point that you can price $175 for a ticket. People are 20,000 people want. Yeah, you better do that. It's a business move, man. But what's more than being a business move is giving them what they want. I have had some unique experiences over my life where I've had free flights until I was 23. And while I didn't always take really great advantage of it, I definitely did toward the end, and I've met over 30 people from World of Warcraft in real life. And I have plenty more beyond that, from Calgary to Maine, that say, if you want us to crash on my couch, go for it. Because I developed social ties with them so strongly that they didn't care if we'd never met before. Some of my best friends in the world for a long time were people I had never met. And BlizzCon was a great opportunity to meet those people. PAX, everybody's familiar with PAX at this point. It's the biggest up-and-coming thing. I'm going to say it's the biggest, but I haven't been yet, so I'm going to go ahead and say maybe I'm not the best person to trust on that, but the numbers don't lie, and it is. It's the most important thing happening every year in the game industry because it reaches out to the players. E3 is great. You can tell me it's great all day long, but that barrier to entry is you're either in the industry or you're journalists or you know somebody. Otherwise, you're not going. Have fun at home on YouTube. There's nothing wrong with that, but PAX lets you get past the ivory gates. And that's paramount. More enabler. I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over. Make it possible. Blizzard reacted to the first 20-minute sell of BlizzCon tickets by saying, well, we don't have more room. We don't really have more content. Well, I guess we have to somehow manage this inundation somehow. And so what they decided to do was sell half the tickets on one day and half the tickets the next day. And a lot more people were happy with that. They had more opportunity to reach them. They go on sale at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. How many people are sitting in a computer that can buy tickets at 10 a.m.? I'm lucky enough to, but not everybody. Especially if you have weird hours, maybe you can't. So Blizzard noticed the social trend among their players and reacted accordingly. Again, enable them. They made it possible for more people to attend their event. Say it's for a business reason, and say because they love their players, doesn't really matter. It's successful. And you need to remember that it's a business. Keep repeating that one too. More than cons are greatly important in the grand scheme of things. Trust me, I love them. I've been over 10 now. I'm going to 13th next month. Anyway, great time. Meet people, industry stuff, but not everybody can travel across the country and spend hundreds of dollars on the ticket and then hundreds of dollars on the hotel and you get the idea. So how can you reach out to them? Blogs. Blogs and forums. We're going to touch on both, but blogs a little less so. Blogs are in a really great state right now. I don't particularly care for Tumblr, but it's exceptionally effective. I like WordPress. Want to do a blog, put the effort into WordPress. It's awesome. Mounting in GoDaddy is awful, but it works. Do what you need to do. But it's a content management system, stronger than pretty much anything else out there. You can do other ones, but most widely used and available. And they have their own convention, because they recognize, again, they have a social following. All they do is create website tools. They have a convention. I've heard jokes about nerds not being exciting, but if you're going to have a convention about website management tools, I think that might sound a little more boring on paper, but they pull it off, and that's important. Use developer blogs. We'll touch on a little more later on developer transparency, and it's exceptionally important. You don't need to tell them what your earnings reports are. They can go find it on their own. But you need to talk to them what's going on in your game. And they recognize what's going on in your game. If there's anything I've learned working with communities, they find out faster than you if you don't work really hard at it. Then because we're in this day and age where, how old was the kid? 14 when he stole the Half-Life 2 source code years back? He went into Valve, he got it from Europe. They did. It was a honeypot, and then they sued him when he turned himself in. But I mean, at 14, this kid pulled it off, and it was years ago. Now, yeah, you're not beating your players, and don't kid yourself into thinking you will. You have to be proactive, and it's not they're malicious. Like, anybody heard about the recent leaks about Call of Duty, the video that got a bajillion views, and he's talking about, well, this, that, and the other. And the dude said, I'm going to believe him, I'm not doing this to ruin the game, I'm just so excited about it. And that's usually the logic. Half-Life 2 kid did it. He just really wanted Half-Life 2 to come out. I want to play this. I want to bring this to players. He did something really stupid and illegal and stole stuff from a billionaire. Like, don't do that, man. But he did it because he really wanted it to. That excitement for your product can manifest itself in ways you aren't prepared for. So you have to be ready. You have to always be proactive and reactive. Community sharing. I like cosplay. My friend likes cosplay. They didn't like his cosplay. This was Anime Central last year, and he thought, hey, I look like New Dante. I'm going to be New Dante. And he was the only New Dante, and nobody liked New Dante. So the game wasn't out yet. You can decide for your own whether that's a good reboot. I have not personally played it. The point is, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys in that picture, and every single one of them spent the money and the time to make a Dante cosplay. Well, there might be 1 or 2 in there. I'm not familiar with the games. The point is, 9 people spent all that time and money to make those cosplays, and then they enjoyed it together. Mutual enjoyment. If you find something, and it usually starts out small. Anybody play Defense of the Ancients? Dota? On League of Legends? Yeah, we got a few, right? That started as a mod way back on Warcraft 3, and that's really, really great. And Ice Frog had it second, but, Ice Frog's the biggest name. The developer on that mod, and as the community behind this grew, it wasn't an official mod. People started to notice. Blizzard hires Ice Frog to develop Dota 2 for them. Blizzard goes, well, hold on a second. This is getting pretty big. It's on our game. We want it. Well, they're a little too late to the game. Valve was prepared enough to react to community support to pick up Dota 2, and they're not doing the Dota 2 versus League of Legends debate because here's newer, it's better anyway. I'm kidding, it's not. But the point is, there's this huge outpouring of support for these things, and Valve was ready to jump on it. And you should be too. This is mutual enjoyment of this mod that's spread across the internet without any developer assistance. I'm not saying you want to backpack off of everything that isn't your work, but when you have the power to help people enjoy something, that's what gaming is about as far as I'm concerned. And that's what the community in games is all about. And you should work toward that. I mentioned a little bit earlier about something getting lost along the line when we picked up Xbox Live and stuff. And I love LAN parties. Still do. Would love to keep doing them. I'm not in the photo on the left, but if you notice at the CRT monitor, that's a little old. And we had like LAN parties at the high school, basements, my house. Hell, there's this one time we had about 16 people show up at my house. Parents weren't home. They came home with their computers in the hallway. It was fun. And it was a great time. I really loved it. And luckily I didn't get sheepskinned, but nevertheless, 16 people packed up their stuff and played in the hallways because they wanted to play together. There is this inherent need in our species to work together, to spend time together, and I'll cover this here in more depth in a minute. But things have kind of been lost along the way where we got 3 dudes here sitting at one computer enjoying one game talking about it now. Not always. We got this guy that's sitting on his couch playing alone. Okay, that's not necessarily wrong. You want to play one, that's great. But again, enable your players, which is how Xbox Live came around. That was the developer response to a need amongst its players, enable them to communicate. But hybridization, really would like to see more of that. And anybody ever been to a Barcraft session? Everybody StarCraft fans? Anybody? Yeah. So Barcraft is this movement happening now where in select dive bars run by nerdy people that are accepting the fact that their clientele are enjoying things that not everybody will. On Sunday nights, maybe in Chicago, they will show StarCraft tournaments. And you're just at the bar watching StarCraft, and if you don't know StarCraft, it might not be so much fun to watch, but it is pretty good. And there are a lot of games that are fun to watch, all kinds of them. I think Halo's the most fun because you see everybody standing up screaming at each other. I actually just like watching the players better than the game. The point is, somebody will watch anything. And so that's why we have MLG, the Major League Gaming organization, and bring it to people how best you can. We played LAN parties in high school and in basements because we didn't have cars, we didn't have booze money, couldn't have had money. We couldn't have the booze if we had the money. Still ended up with the booze somehow. But the point is, you did what was available to you, and now it's not so much available. Maybe you're out of college, you don't have a lot of money, and you go to a studio apartment, have fun hosting a LAN party, bud. You're not renting out a warehouse. What are you going to do? What do? You go to bars, you go to parties. And if a bar, like a developer, can recognize what their clientele wants and react accordingly, now you have Barcraft. And now, maybe you have a bunch of people that like StarCraft, they didn't want to leave their house because they didn't want to miss StarCraft, but they really want some booze and hang out with friends. Now they can do that, and you're making money off of it. And you're not being sleazy because you're giving people what they want. If they don't want it, they won't come. So don't feel guilty about that. Don't feel guilty about monetizing games if you're doing it for the right reasons. Granted, that can be a little subjective if you're the one getting the money, but do your best to put your feelers out and figure out how to do that correctly. But a big thing now, and World of Warcraft's a great example, is you are struggling against invisibility. Who has made an indie game or anything and put it on a phone? Any app stores? Anything? Okay, nobody, but the problem is, do you know how many apps get put on the App Store every day? Shout out some numbers. Thousands a bit much, hundreds is correct. It's somewhere around 250 to 300 a day. I'm not doing 365 times that because I know it's more than I would like to compete against, but that is the reality, is you have to do that. And when you're playing, if you're playing, how many people wanted to be a hero when they were younger? How many people would still like to be a hero? Yeah, I got more hands on that one. So yeah, you want to do that, and games can enable you to do that. You can be a team captain for Halo, you could be the carry for a MOBA, or you could be the premier forum troll on your local game. You could be any of these things, something that stands out, and at the end of the day, somebody remembers your name. They remember you. People want that, but in 11 million people, it's kind of hard to do. Blizzard and other associated games have, not necessarily associated, but other games have done well to divide players by region. Region division is good, region locking is bad. I'm just going to leave it at that because it's a very, very heated debate. But experiment with that and region locking means that you can't go play with the German players from US, or Asian players can't play with Pacific. I'm not a big fan because in a world that's so connected, I think that enabling players to be able to play with different cultures is exceptionally important and pushes our culture forward because you can learn in real time and understand. Anybody ever learned another language before? Or kind of know one? You learn faster in a textbook, and you learn faster when you're among the people. Exactly. Region locking is bad. Don't do it. But we have the visibility issue. Forums, they're a list. How many different forum formats are there? The answer is one, by the way. They all look the same. They have pretty pictures, and that's fine. And it's tried and true, and it's been around forever, but is it really that exciting? Not really. You know what is exciting? Except on a desktop computer? Windows 8. Windows 8 is really, really cool in its tile format, and it's awesome on tablets, and I can't wait to play with it some more, but if I use that mouse one more time, I'll throw it out the damn window. Maybe you could do forms like that. Maybe somebody can develop a new form structure. You know, when you think about making games, you don't necessarily think about, I'm going to write code for the next V bulletin iteration. Well, okay. It's kind of like being excited that a new version of Jira is out. It's awesome, by the way. Point is, what if instead of the list you had a bunch of tiles, and intermixing the tiles were titles and threads and whatnot, little snippet, and maybe 3 over you've got a tile that is sponsored by the developer that is showcasing recent player fan art. And then a couple down, you've got some that are sponsored ads. Nobody really likes ads. It's a business. I already told you that. Don't forget it. And you can generate revenue there. And it just kind of maybe it would fall into the whole, and you could have player contribution through the fan art tile. You have ads and revenue through the ad tile. You have the content of the forum through the regular tiles. And maybe you have pinned tiles above everything else. Just an idea I came up with. Please, if you know how to do it, go do that. That sounds awesome. If it's terrible, I was not the guy with the idea. But I'd really like to see it, because that's what comes to me. What can we do with the forums? They work. How can we make them better? If you're at a list, anybody know what the fold is when I talk about web development? What's above the fold? Everything above the bottom of the screen without scrolling. I don't have the exact number, but the majority of people do not go past the fold if they can help it. Most web design is based off the standard resolution and above that fold because nobody's going to see anything underneath of it, and you need to plan for that. And if a resolution is 800 by 600, you might see 6 topics in that forum, nothing else gets seen, and those player contributions disappear. Maybe you can fit 24 tiles in that same space. See what you can come up with. We talked about earlier the idea that as a society, we need each other. And I'm going to talk about cities versus villages. It's an interesting societal or sociological concept I read about recently that eloquently put the way I've always felt. When we were younger as a species, Cro-Magnon, etc., we were in villages because we needed everybody to work together to survive, or you were dead. That's it. There's nothing else to it. You had to help each other. Maybe you grew up in a 20,000 person town in the middle of a cornfield like I did and worked at Walmart and you had regulars because there were enough people that came through there, but not too many. That's important. And now, well, not now, I suppose, but then I moved to Chicago and there's millions of people. And they say that at any given time you have the capacity to have about 250 to 350 contacts you can maintain socially without overburdening yourself. What percentage of Chicago's population is 350 people? A lot of zeros before that one. So you're not interacting with much, you're not influencing much, and you don't have a whole lot of people influencing you in a matter of ratios. But in a village, you might have a few people, 10, 15 people, and you can know each other more intimately, know each other's strengths, what they can contribute to you and what you can contribute to them. Large groups can be great because they give you complex interactions. You have more manpower to try different things. They can be a little overwhelming. There are 25 people in this picture all taking credit for killing that boss, and I don't know what the hell is going on, and I barely found myself. It's a really cool picture to show off, but I hung out with a few of them, but most of them I knew about. Great. And the smaller groups encourage more intimate interactions, like I said, and you know more about everybody. And as a visual aid, there are 10 people there. You put them all out, and that's the power. So developer transparency that I discussed a little bit earlier, we're not going to cover a whole lot on it, it's pretty basic. Talk about your game as much as you can with your players. You don't need to give them earnings estimates, but if you're working on a patch and for your next milestone or whatever, you have information that is guaranteed to be in the patch, put it out. Constant stream of information keeps people interested. There's a reason why Aldi puts out weekly ads. Every week, you want to go see what their new special buy is. It's extremely important for their business model. If you've got a patch that's going to come out with 30 changes, and it's a month from now, maybe each day put out a new change. Tease it. Get them to keep coming to your product. That's exceptionally important. This is a great way to use Twitter and Facebook. And it's the conversation between players and their idols. We're here because we like games. Most of us probably want to make games. And you're probably influenced by somebody that made a game prior to you making a game. And you would love to talk to those people. All players, whether they want to make a game or not, would love to talk to the game designers that make the games they enjoy. Just like fans of the Cardinals probably wanted to talk to Mark McGwire before he started openly admitting using steroids. There may be some after. But the point is, it's just like in sports. It's just like your favorite political figure you voted for in the last election. Or it's the guy that is the starter on your sports team, and you want to be like him. I know there's a million examples. You can come up with anyone you want. They all boil down to the same thing. You want to talk to the people that impress upon you motivation to do something you enjoy. Enable them. Talk. Go. If you're in the office, and an email to everybody in the office, say, hey, I need somebody to go talk to these guys. If anybody wants to chit chat on the forums, go. Let me know. We'll organize it for you. Do that for your developers and do it for your players. Persistent names I've talked about a little bit. My name is Sliced Bread when I game. Had it forever. Don't really know why I have it. I just thought it was funny and it stuck. I tried small children before that, but I knew that the scalability issue was a problem before, eventually having a ponytail and a beard. So I didn't stick with that one. Although my alternative is Shady Milkman. But the point is, you get all these great ideas, whatever sticks with you, you shotgun the wall, and one eventually stays. But I'll be damned, I haven't been more pissed off when I log onto a game and the name I've had for almost 2 decades is already taken. Well, let's put 13 at the end. No, I'm not putting 13 at the end. That sucks. I'm not doing it. I'm Sliced Bread. Where the hell's this guy? I want his name because it's mine. And so Blizzard did a really ingenious thing with Diablo 3 recently, in that anybody can have any name they want as long as it's not offensive, but you have a number associated. Up here you see Sliced Bread. If you could read it as number 1800. I don't think I'm actually number 1800 because that'd be a lot of people I need to remove. But the point is, I can be Sliced Bread and somebody else can be Sliced Bread. We can both be happy. And that's excellent. I don't have to put 13 because I'm not Sliced Bread 13. I'm not Anthony 13. My last name isn't some word I had to Google for just to get past the registration screen. I'm not saying necessarily rip off Blizzard's idea, figure out how to do it for yourself maybe, but make whatever you can do, make it possible for players to take from game to game their name. I mentioned personal lore in the beginning, and this is part of it. When you go between games, especially with other people, you recognize each other's names. I was playing Heroes of Newerth one night, and a guy that had come from my guild a long time ago went to the US #2 guild at the time. Anybody played World of Warcraft maybe knows Vodka. He played in Vodka. Vodka's cool guys, by the way. Had a friend go there. I had an invitation. I also had a girlfriend. She said no. That's how it goes. The point is, he was playing in Vodka, and he was really good, and he stopped talking to everybody that was on his previous server because we were, as Jolner, the only one with a hyphen and the last on the list of realm rankings. We were playing Heroes of Newerth, and his name popped up, and my buddy said, hey, are you that guy? He said, holy shit, how have you been? And then all of a sudden, 6 of us are talking about old-time fun and wow in another game because he was able to move on with the name that he chose for himself, that carries with it all of the stories, all of the fun and memories that have been associated with his experience while carrying that name. And what's extremely important is we remembered some things. I'm a good example, actually. If somebody wrote a book about all the stupid things that have happened to me and wow, and people can make fun of me for, good Lord, never show my face again. The point is, I don't remember them all. Somebody else does. And they're associated with my name. So that name carries a lot of weight with it. For you, the player, and for other people that associate that name with you, what you have done. They remember that for being the top DKP in the group, Skull Gul'dan never dropped, and you get to live with that. And that's very sad. Or you could be the guy that was the last one alive during a group fight in Diablo 3, and you killed Gome single-handedly as a melee, and no one knows how the hell you did it, but you killed it and you got to progress, and that's awesome. It's because of your name. They'll remember that. Quick subject. It was until, I believe, recently generally accepted on the internet that the higher your post count was, the bigger your penis was. I'm here to tell you that's not correct. And post counts, as far as I'm concerned, are a disease and a relic of a time gone by. Don't show post counts. You don't get to argue because if I agree with you, we'd both be wrong. Post counts cause a lot of problems with people's egos. It's a sociological problem. It's keeping up with the Joneses. The guy next door has a really nice house, makes the same amount of money as you, and you don't. Okay, well, maybe he realizes that and likes to impress upon you he's doing better with the same. And all of a sudden you're not very interested anymore. You don't want to deal with him. And the social disconnect has occurred. Just stay away from it. No good can come from it. I don't think you should have displayed ranks either, but you can play with that. If they're ambiguous and no one knows what the hell it is, the first one is a noob, maybe it's like the first one's God, and the next one is Morgan Freeman or something. Who the hell knows what that is? And you can go, you've got the Morgan Freeman rank. But it means nothing. But if you give someone something tangible like a number, they can exert against other people. I've simply been around longer. I got 30,000 posts. You've got 300. Why should I listen to you? And as soon as somebody says that, because it's empirical data, maybe another new guy with 200 posts says, well, if the 30,000 post guy says not to listen to the 300 posts guy, well, screw him. And maybe it's somebody like my friend who played for the world number 2, and I guess at the time they were US 2. US number 2 World of Warcraft guild. One of the most experienced and exceptional players I've ever played with. I've played with a lot. Maybe he goes to a new forum and he carries that name with him. And he goes to say, hey, no, this is how you play a paladin. And 30,000 post spam forum guy says, no. Then maybe the people that are aspiring to be paladins are taking the advice from the wrong person. And that number, that empirical data can squelch the value of a name. Because if you go and say, oh, D6, he's on this forum, he gave good advice, he's 300 but 30,000 post guys said don't, you go back to where he's from and he's revered as the best player in his class. All of a sudden, all the knowledge that he can pass along about the game is lost because some guy has a number in his name that means nothing. So please don't do that. Too much can be lost at it and there's not enough to gain. Player spotlights and MVPs. We're theatrical word, aren't we? We didn't do role-playing because we were way too mean to each other, but otherwise it would have been a lot of fun. The point is, player spotlights and MVPs are great. A lot of people want to make video games, and a lot of people are going to be motivated to play video games if they're given an opportunity. And so if you do an interview with somebody, maybe you see there is a community member that is standing out. We had one in Pokemon, and he helped everybody really early on. He'd been there forever. He'd been through our open alpha. He helped us learn some things, where bugs were, and he was extremely friendly and willing to help people. And he was in every thread. Eventually he stopped showing up, which was unfortunate, and I believe a community loss. Would we have made him a moderator? No, it's a business. But the point is, we had a lot to contribute. Maybe if we had taken him and we had said, okay, we're going to do an interview with you on Twitter or on a thread, and that everybody can take from you what you find valuable and what you can contribute. Now it's compartmentalized, and we can sticky it, and then people can get that information from you easily without having to go to thread to thread to thread to follow you. You're not using that player because you have to ask them first. You have to tell them, I'm not going to pay you. You're not getting special privileges. Do you want to impart to people information? And not everybody wants to do that, but when you find somebody who does, don't skip the opportunity like we did. It didn't make the company go under, obviously. Pokemon's doing fine. But it was a missed opportunity. It's called missing. Player personal fulfillment. Anybody play WoW notices the fact that I'm in the wrong armor to the doing it on that character at the time that was appropriate? Yes, I cheesed this content. I don't care. The point is, I played a character that I really wanted to do on this content and just see how it went, and I was able to because Blizzard didn't block old content. Simple thing, but I wanted to be able to experience it in a different way. I'm not saying there's a great way to explicitly say, in your game, do it like this to emulate what Blizzard did. Well, this comes back to the enablement. If a player wants to do something, help them do it. Help them realize that. By letting me go back to old content, I was able to realize a different perspective from these encounters on the character that I didn't do before, and that was fun for me. It could be so much as characterization. EVE Online has really good character development. World of Warcraft does not. It's got like 4 faces, and that's probably the worst part of that game. And there are a few others, but hey, who's counting? The point is, when you're making a character that is as much like yourself as possible, it's an extension of the fact that you chose a name that's associated with you and what you want to be. Help them choose how to design their character. Help them choose player housing. Has been in many games. I think Richard Garriott's going to put it in his new game. I believe it's Shroud of the Avatar that just finished its Kickstarter. That'd be great. World of Warcraft is, what are we at, 7 years? 8 years? They don't have player housing yet. I'm not saying it's the worst thing ever to not have it, but it's another thing that can give these personal investment into your game. And it's a business. They spend more time there. We had an issue one time in Pokemon, and we had a general discussion part of our forum. And some of these kids started discussing God only knows what. If you're familiar with the Pokemon community, talk about everything, and it eventually turns into fan fiction. Nothing wrong with that. That's part of the community. You need to enable that. Well, one day they started doing fan fiction that was a crossover with Digimon mixed with Indiana Jones. I mean, it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. It made no sense, but there were a bunch of 10+ pages. Everybody was enjoying it. And we get this email from the Pokemon Company International that said, shut it down. No more general discussion. If they're not talking about Pokemon, period, they're not allowed to talk on our forum. You can guess how that went down for the next 24 hours. The next 24 hours. And for almost a week, we deal with outcries from players not having a place to go and say, hey, I'm burnt out on Pokemon. I want to go talk about Game of Thrones. Or I want to go talk about how Digimon was worse than Pokemon, which was a thread that got shut down. It doesn't even make sense. But it's because Pokemon didn't understand their community well enough. You're playing on a website that on all sides says Pokemon, and there's a button to buy. But if you take away their ability to chit-chat amongst themselves, you know someone else can do it and buy that person's stuff. And you've lost money, and your players are not as happy anymore. A lot of loss all at once. Pushing community forward, we're going to kind of run through this one pretty quickly because it's whatever you're going to do it. Forums are great. You can get throat punched. It's awesome. Feels pretty good. It doesn't feel good. He weighs like 100 pounds more than me and has a lot of muscle. It was terrible. But the point is, look at all those people that met together at BlizzCon. We keep up. It's really great. More conventions like PAX, more conventions like BlizzCon, more summits like this. It mirrors how the real world works. I'm here right now because I like community in games. I don't think I see enough of it, but I like it a lot, so that I need more than a normal person. But I want to see all of you do it too. And these people are here because they wanted to talk about their shared interests, just like the cosplayers before. Help them do that, however you can. It'll be different for your games. Maybe you don't go to the extent of a con. Maybe it's a new way to integrate social features, hopefully not Facebook posts, but possibly in your game, whatever. Maybe you redefine how a leaderboard works. Who knows? Figure it out. Just try it and see things move more into the future. Like these kids who, well, if they're shorter than my waist, they're usually about 5, and then I just don't count at that point. I have 3 cousins, I can't keep up with the ages, but they're there, sign their names on the wall, because at that age they recognize, hey, if I leave my mark here, maybe it can influence somebody else. Maybe they just read the name. Maybe they think, that kid's got a really cool handle and I wish it was mine. Who knows? But they'll probably remember that. And it's just something more you can do for them. Develop better social activities. If a group wants to do something and it's not breaking the rules, help them do that. If you played World of Warcraft, you probably knew about Proudmoore. Proudmoore US server was extremely popular because it had a very inviting atmosphere for gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender players. And if you played MMOs, it's a problem to be any of those things because people are mean when they're anonymous. And Proudmoore got this reputation of this is a haven to go where there's not as much hatred. And Blizzard never condemned that. They never hid it. They let it thrive. And on that server, they organized an event. Players organized an event because they realized, well, we can give everybody pink shirts and it's Cancer Awareness Month. So let's walk all the way across the continent in this giant protest against cancer, but you have to donate money to get into it. And we did. We spent hours running around commons on level 1 getting killed in pink shirts. And eventually danced on a pirate bay at the end of it, and Blizzard promoted it because they realized there was good to become of it. Recognize when that exists. Limited time events, if anybody plays Guild Wars 2, pretty sweet game according to my office mates. I haven't played MMO in a little while, but I'd like to try it because for April only, which is only a few more days at this point, you got an adventure box iteration that makes the game look like Minecraft plus Mario. And you can get bubbles to get bobbles. I think you get Weeble Wobbles at the end. I don't know, like you get something, right? And it's really cool because it's a limited time event. And again, as a business, you want people constantly a part of your product. And people, Guild Wars is great because it's not a monthly fee, so you can jump in at any time. And then all of a sudden you hear on your social channel 6 days in April, come play Minecraft Mario and Guild Wars 2. And then you're in playing again. Then maybe you're buying microtransactions again. And yes, it's a limited time event, so maybe at the end of April, they don't play again. So bring it around more. These things, they're injections of fun, into your game that can help people if it spreads by word of mouth, which is super powerful, especially with Twitter and Facebook. Do that. Anything that excites somebody. The energy in my aisle at the office when the Guild Wars students found out you could do this was unbelievable. Lunch has been shot all month, but we haven't done anything together because everybody's playing in the adventure box. And it makes me want to try it out, which might net bring in at $40. So you know. But remember, we're all in this together. We work with and for your players. As much as you enjoy your community inside your office, your culture, you need to develop culture in your game, give them the ground zero, and let them grow from there. Just like with Proudmoore, was just another server of players, and then all of a sudden it became this hardcore pride and protection for all of these bi, lesbian, gay, transgendered people because they were allowed to. You see them achieve lifelong gaming memories. On a certain boss in World of Warcraft, it was the 43rd best in the world out of 12.5 million players. 43rd isn't first, but it felt pretty good. And I will probably remember that forever because I was so skilled in that moment. I was able to do better than I can run that number. That percentage is huge. If I had done it on my ACT, I would have been on the East Coast for college. You know, but that's really great. Help them do that. In order to make those websites that parse data and performance, Blizzard had to allow developers to use their API and their data, and instead of saying, no, that's our data, we want to do this, they didn't, and you have Guildox, you have all these ranking sites, because Blizzard is not stingy with their information, and it turned into this self-propagating machine of social activity that made their game more popular and have more sustainability. And help your players create their own personal gaming lore. I know I haven't said lore a whole lot, and I haven't said personal a lot, but I hope that you understand through this talk how it's all relevant to itself. When you walk away with your name, take with you memories of the next game. When I'm done here today, I've got a lot of memories associated with Anthony. Take this lecture. When I play games tonight, I've got a lot of experience associated with sliced bread. Like I'm really not good at Call of Duty. But give me a riot shield and I'll have a fun time. And that's paramount. Just make it possible for people to have fun. If I could boil it down to one statement, do that. Make it fun, make it memorable. And they don't always have to be there. That's where the memories are from. Thank you very much.